Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. And today we're talking about healthy aging, longevity, and health span. The top five things, this top five list that I've put together of lifestyle changes, behavioral modifications that you can take on so that you can live a longer, better life and stay out of the hospital and off of medications. The overwhelming majority of poor aging is not due to genetics, but to modifiable lifestyle factors. So before we get into it all, I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe so more people can get this video and so you get more videos from us in the future. That said, let's go ahead and dive in. So I've got a list here of the top five things that I want you to be concerned about. We're going to go backwards from least important to most important. But again, keep in mind, all five of these are very important. All right, so number five on the list is cardiovascular conditioning. The studies behind cardiovascular training and its ability to negate the number one killer in the United States, which is cardiovascular disease, its ability to negate that is tremendous. Even if you don't necessarily have the right diet, and even if there are some other components in your lifestyle that are lacking, if you're getting really strong, scientifically put together exercise science for your cardiovascular conditioning, you're going to be a lot less likely to see stroke and heart attack. Now, again, this is number five on my list, so it is at the bottom. But if you're getting the cardiovascular recommendations, and for most people, that's going to be about 150 to 180 minutes per week of total cardiovascular expenditure, if you get that at the right intensity, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, you're going to be a lot less likely to succumb to stroke or heart attack, especially in your later years. And even if you're young and you're watching this in your 20s or 30s or so, and you're thinking to yourself that you're too young to be concerned about stroke and heart attack, what I would say to that is that the sooner you start building goodwill and building health within your physiology, within your heart, the muscles of your lungs, etc., the better you're going to be when you get older. You want to go in with a good, strong, built up body as you get into your later years. So cardiovascular conditioning is very important. I've talked about the 150 to 180 minute general recommendation. That's for the general public. People who have had certain health conditions often need less, and people who are obese generally need a little bit more because we also need to get rid of the excess body fat, and cardiovascular conditioning will help you to do that. All right, so there's more to talk about that in a separate video, more specific to cardiovascular conditioning. But for this video, let's move on now to the number four most important lifestyle change that you can take on for healthy aging and longevity, and that is strength conditioning, strength training, or also called resistance training. So resistance training, first and foremost, does not need to involve actual free weight, such as dumbbells or barbells or anything like that. You can do it solely using bands and tubing and the kinds of equipment that you see in a physical therapy clinic. But all that said, generally speaking, as you get more advanced, it's going to be better for your muscles to have some combination of machines and bands and tubing and also free weights as well. But what matters most are your fit principles. If you're going to make strength training really productive for you so that it can serve as the panacea for all these different health problems that people often get as they get older, strength training is going to serve you well in either curing or preventing a lot of these problems if you get your fit principles right. Now, here's what that stands for. FIT stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. That's the acronym, is frequency, intensity, time, and type. And so you want to be thinking about your FIT principles when it comes to every single exercise in your strength training regimen. So for example, if you're performing a squat exercise, what you want to be asking yourself is the intensity right for me? Is this the kind of intensity that's intense, but that's not actually causing joint pain? And is it enough where I can only really safely perform for beginners somewhere between about 6 repetitions all the way up to potentially about 20 or 25 repetitions? If the resistance makes it where you can't do that many, or you can do a lot more than that, then the resistance probably needs to be changed. Okay, now I'm speaking very broad level. There's a lot more that goes into this. People with different medical conditions will have different needs. But generally speaking, that's the kind of intensity that's going to be pretty adaptive and still pretty safe. We also have to consider the frequency. If you're strength training a muscle group once or twice a month, you're not really going to be very likely to see much therapeutic adaptation. Then again, if you're training the same muscle group 5 or 6 days a week, that's generally too much frequency, and that can actually be more likely to cause injury and also hinder adaptation. So we want to be able to really go into the science and get the frequency right, the intensity right, and also the amount of time that a set is taking in strength training. And then the type is really, you have to choose the right exercises that are going to make sense for your body, for the length of your limbs, for any abnormalities that you may have, for any structural deviations, all kinds of things. We need to be able to put together just the right modalities or the right type to make sure that your exercise program, your strength program, is going to be really beneficial for you. Again, there's a whole lot more information out there. I'm just giving you the bare basics on strength training. Given that, now let's get away from exercise and talk about my number 3 on this list of lifestyle changes that are going to help you to have healthier, better aging. Number 3 is nutrition. Now, nutrition, again, is a really vast topic. I'm going to boil it down to a few key points that are generally going to be the most important for longevity. One of them is getting the right amount of protein. We talk about this in many of my other videos more in depth, so I'm not going to go too far into it here. But if you're getting the right amount of protein for your body weight and your body composition and your lifestyle and your exercise habits, if you're getting that right amount of protein, you're very likely going to be able to build or at least maintain your muscle tissue, which is very critical, like we spoke about earlier in the strength training component. So that part has the protein has a whole lot to do with your muscle strength and using that as a panacea for health problems as you age. Now, additionally, omega-3 is another very big topic. Omega-3, it's got pharmaceutical benefits, and yet it's completely natural and very low risk, and it's something that people need to be consuming a whole lot more of. When we look at the blue zones, the parts of the world where people live abnormally longer than everywhere else, where being a centurion is not uncommon, in those blue zones, they're generally getting much more omega-3 than we are here in the Western world. So that's certainly a big part of their longevity. A couple other components that relate to nutrition are, for example, eating more whole foods and staying away from processed food. Processed food has just really taken over these last several decades. But keep in mind, food itself is really not supposed to be packaged and processed and going through all these processes that it goes through. It's supposed to be something whole and raw. And that's generally where you're going to have a better lifestyle, is if you can embrace more raw whole foods as opposed to the more processed things like cereals, for example, and certainly things like soda pops and things of that nature. Please try to remember just how incredibly unnatural those are to the human body, and that they're the furthest thing from what we should be putting in ourselves. Now, also under the umbrella of nutrition, I'm going to list hydration. Getting the right amount of water each day is critical. All of your body's processes require water. And if you don't have enough water in your body, which statistically you probably don't, if you don't have enough hydration, your body can't do its job quite as well as it would be with enough hydration. And it's the simplest behavioral change to make, right? Getting enough water should be easy. I do, however, recommend avoiding tap water. The fluoride and chlorine and a couple other things that you'll find in tap water are generally to be avoided. So all this brings me to number 2, and number 2 is sleep science. I've spoken about this in other videos because it's so incredibly critical. But honestly, if we look at the totality of all the science out there on healthy aging, I would say that sleep matters even more than nutrition or exercise. Now, some of the ways that you can get more productive restorative sleep, and please keep in mind, everybody, when I say this, I understand you might be waking up after 7 or 8 hours and feeling great. And certainly that's a good sign, but there's a whole lot more to it. That doesn't tell the whole story. All right, so one of the things you want to do is in the 30 minutes before going to bed, you want to mimic nature. Unless you're outdoors and actually watching the sun come down, you want to create that kind of feeling inside the house. You actually want to do things like dim the lights if you can. You want to start cutting out blue light, anything regarding technology, your phone, having a computer in front of you. Get away from those things before bed. Try to dim the lights, get into more of a sense of calm, preferably without electronics at all, or with perhaps just a distant TV that's several feet away from you. And try to get to a point of just dropping any concerns that you have and slowly easing into the idea of slumber. This is a very important component. I also recommend that before bed, try to do something that creates a sense of calm. in terms of journaling, for example, with an actual piece of paper and a pen, or just having a soft conversation with someone, or playing some really soft music, something to really let you get that feeling of I'm calming down entirely and I'm disconnecting from the stressors of my day and I'm just kind of letting my mind wander a bit. That's going to help you to get better sleep as well. Now, when you do go to sleep, I've said this before as well, but you don't want any light in the room or coming in from the window at all. I highly recommend blackout curtains. They're going to do a lot for you. Even if it's just a little bit of moonlight coming in or something like that, I realize you're still going to fall asleep just fine, that it's not going to keep you up. But what happens is light ultimately serves as a chemical while you're sleeping. And even a little bit of incoming light or any kind of light from a clock radio or anything like that can disrupt your REM cycles. And that's the last thing you want to do while you're sleeping. Additionally, I also recommend that while you're sleeping, you have some sort of an air filter on so that while you're spending all that time in a room with probably a closed door, that you're keeping the air well filtered as well. Now, one final note on this number 2 item of sleep science. The other thing here is that getting the same bedtime and having the same wake time each day is very helpful. I know that's very difficult, if not impossible, if you have to travel and change time zones. But the more that you can do to train your body and to lock into circadian rhythms so that your body knows when it's time to go to sleep and when it's time to wake up, that kind of clockwork is very good for healthy aging, very good for muscle growth, which, as we spoke about earlier, is a bit of a panacea, almost a catch-all for a lot of health problems, and certainly very good for your heart and your bones and your joints. So sleep science, very important. I recommend these few things. Finally, let's get on to the number one, the most important thing, the statistically number one most important thing that really matters when it comes to longevity and health span and staying out of the hospital and off of medications as you get older. And that is not stressing out. It's that having low stress levels and well managed stress is ultimately the best way to live, because you're always going to have stress. Stress it's inescapable. But if you can learn to manage that stress and firstly not let it manifest physically, where you're actually feeling the heart start to pound, or you're feeling this shaky kind of feeling in your nervous system, if you cannot let it get to that point, that's going to be a win. And then if you can also have a psychological comfort in saying, okay, this is bad right now. This is a brief time in my life. And then I'm going to get over this. And if you can see it as not this huge brick wall in the road, so to speak, but instead an obstacle that you will get through that is surmountable, we find that that has a whole lot to do with longer term physical health, with maintaining your health. And part of that, just to give you the mind body connection here, is, for example, your muscles can't really be all that healthy when your central nervous system is going through repeated stress. Chronic stress takes away from your ability to sustain or grow muscle tissue. And again, we've talked a bit about how important that is for longevity. Also, your heart and lungs are not going to operate as well. They're going to be more challenged when they're going through the physiological stressors. And sleep science that we just spoke about is also more disrupted if you're having a lot of chronic stress. Stress really just sits in the body in terms of muscle tension and all other kinds of just really damaging effects. So one of the easiest and best things that you can do is to start working on better managing stress, trying to deal with it healthfully, and having a better attitude towards all life's ups and downs. So anyway, everyone, I hope this video has been helpful. If you didn't already, please like and subscribe so you get more videos like this and so more people can see this video. If you think this video is helpful, please share it. Please let people know about it. And as always, everybody, you can also get my help directly. You can reach me through my website. You can comment. I will respond to all your comments. And you can also call me. My phone number is down below in the description. Feel free to reach out. I look forward to each and every one of yours health and fitness success.